Before, you could see us setting up a base camp, a place in the middle of the land with all our infrastructure, like water and electricity. It covers our basic needs. It's a good short-term base to work from, so we could focus our time on exploring the land. Now, after almost 2 years of observing, we are finally going to start long-term planning. First step is making maps. Welcome to a new Project Kamp update. Alright, so up until now we spent most of our time here on base camp and not really on the other parts of the land, because we first wanted to see where we actually are before we do any drastic changes. So talking with the neighbors, observing the trees, the climate. And we've been doing that now for a while, and it's time to really put all this data together. So for instance, we have data from satellite maps, online tools to create contour lines. Mark flew a drone to create a height map of the land. We had many chats with the neighbors about the history of the land. We walked around a lot ourselves to just observe the good and the bad things, highway sounds. Naomi mapped out all the native trees on the land. We looked on websites about the climate to see the previous years about the wind, the direction, the humidity, the temperatures. And we cleaned up and measured all the structures on the land, the ruins we have, to see what is already there. So at this point we have a lot of information on our heads, on papers, conversations. So now it's time to put it all together. So we're going to create a few maps which contain all this information we gathered, so it's easier to share, to talk about. But before we can make the final data sheet, we have one thing to do, because in update 33 we discovered a small new little ruin which we didn't know existed.
So here we have the ruin, and this one isn't really modern like the other ruins we found. It's just big granite stones which keep it nice and cool, and we're not really sure what we'd use it for yet, but it's nice to find it because it's really easy to legalize these structures, and then we can build here whatever we want in the future.
And we never cleaned it up, so before we're gonna have the final data, we first need to make sure we clean that ruin, measure it, and then we can make our maps. So time to clean up. Oh yeah, and just for your reference, the ruin is located right here in the middle of all these bushes. It's very dense, a lot of things to chop, so get started.
Hello Emma.
Hey,
How you doing?
doing fine. Just deciding where to start the new path, because from this old path we need to reach the ruin that is over there. Hi, Julie. After some hard work, we cleared up the ruin, and now it's accessible so that we can have a better look at it.
So this is the result of hard work.
Yeah, or maybe of stupidity. It's the name of the cringe, the piece of metal that can turn the door.
I don't know.
This back place is really squared and really stretched, and I feel like it was something as a mangiatoia, a place where farmers can feed the animals. This looks like a structural point. Yeah, we think also that in these huge rocks they make this place for putting a structural beam, maybe a big huge wooden beam coming from that side, and yeah,
To support all the roof.
support with the roof. Yeah. Back to base camp, we took some measurement of the ruin, made a survey of it, and with this drawing I did a digital model and some digital maps. We are trying to legalize the buildings on site, on the property, and we need all the infos about that. So I will show you some of these maps. This is the floor plan. I translated the survey into this really simple digital drawing, and you can see from the top that it is 17 square meter. Only some walls are still standing up, and from the side the maximum height that we have measured is 1.4 meter. Let me show you how it's placed on the land with some maps. So here is the property, and we have some ruins or building on it coming from OpenStreetMaps. We don't know yet who placed it, but it was nice to see maps already updated. We have some contour lines. Here is base camp, and trying to add also the ruins on it. In the meantime, we also made a map. It's a 3D model. It's made thanks to photos taken by the drone, and trying to also add some model of the ruins and all the data that we already have available on it. And it's a nice way to browse through the land and to see, for example, base camp here. And finally, we have some orthophotos made by the satellites. It's one roughly each year since 2006 all the way up to right now. And I will show you some details, some interesting stuff that I found in it. 2006, we can see that the land was in use. Dashed line is the property. The land was in use. The ruins were used and the grass around it was cutted. 2010, behind the ruin is like a little path that now is completely hidden by the mimosas. And we can see some movement in the neighbors' land. They usually raised all the land to the ground to plant eucalyptus trees. 2011 is an interesting story about this big cork tree. We can see from this map that it's still alive while other also trees are green. But if we go to the next one, that is 2013, the big cork tree looks like it's already dying. It's grayish and all the other trees are still green. What we think is that the neighbors doing like a temporary road in some way cut some roots or made some changes, and the big cork didn't survive. In the meantime, municipality cut grass under the electric lines through the land. Where they cut is like really going to the ground. And in the top side of the land border, we can see the eucalyptus farm growing. New plot of land completely turned down and planted. 2015, the big cork unfortunately is dead, and yeah, still the eucalyptus farm growing. 2017, it seems like every 3 years the municipality clean the electric lines, and the neighbors also completely cleared this area to make maybe some other plantation. 2018 is an interesting map. It's the first image that we have after the wildfire of 2017 October. It was a huge wildfire. Almost 80% of all the forestry in this municipality was completely burnt, and 5 people died from it. In our land, all of it was completely turned down. Almost all of the trees gone. 2019, almost 2 years after the fires, all the trees are growing back, and also neighbors are planting more eucalyptus. 2021, we have some vans in the land. Base camp is growing, and 2 containers coming from the Netherlands. And finally, this is 2022. It's August, it's the last map we have, and we made it with the drone shots. I will go through some details. We can see clearly base camp is changing, some place for the vans, a place for tents. Here the 2 main ruins, the fields on the front of the land, and we can see here the ruin that we cleared. Finally, we have all the data and images gathered from public databases, satellites, drone mapping and surveys of the property and its buildings. Now we can make some helpful maps. First of all, this is a basic conversion of the model coming from the drone map into a colorful map. The red areas are the highest, and we are talking about 344 meters above sea level, and the lowest point in the land is 280 meters. Base camp is 304 meters here. Having in mind the environment and the climate, we made some graphic maps. Here we highlighted the summer wind coming from the north, the frost in the morning coming from south, and the differences between winter sun and summer sun. More in detail, we have here the solar disk. Is basically show each day of the year where the position of the sun is based on this location, and is useful to just predict the sun position and his angle to build construction, to build windows, for example. In this scheme, we highlighted some challenges, mainly wildfires coming from the woods behind us and the highway noise coming from the west. This map is still in progress. We are highlighting all the trees logged by Naomi and all the native species, and we can see some trends. For example, that here we have a lot of mimosas, and the place where there's not any mimosas, other species can grow. We also made a map with all the water lines, the creek, we can see here the pond, the water reserve behind the base camp, the well. And finally, we made a planimetry with all this kind of information placed. Coming from the bottom, we can see the creek, the big ruin, small ruin, and following the street, we arrive at the base camp with vans, with tents in the corner. Behind the base camp, we can see yoga deck near the water reserve. Well, on the other side of the street, we go on the top of the hill where there's another yoga deck, and going on the side, we will reach the waterfall and the lagoon. This is the work that we did so far. We are trying to keep the maps updated, and we will upload all this work on the website in the research module. If you have any feedback, any question, let us know there.
So here we are on top of the land, and instead of using satellite data and drones, we can also just climb up and have a look, which is quite nice to get a bit of an overview. Yeah, the main reason for making all these maps and this data is that it's easier for us internally to have all the data in one place so we can start planning, but also to share it with other people like you guys, and maybe people that want to help out landscaping or looking into how do we grow our forest, how do we divide our zones. So we're going to share all of those maps in the research module and continue the planning from there. And the main thing we're actually looking into is, on the one hand, that's what is a bit of a complex puzzle, because on the one hand we want to make sure that ecologically it makes sense what we're doing, so we take the right trees and put the water retention in the right areas. But then you also have just legally what is allowed to do. There are certain limitations depending on if it's florestal area or urban area, so we have to work with that. And then also we just have personal wishes. So for instance, we might like certain areas of the land more than others depending on the sound or the sun. So those 3 layers we sort of need to paste on top of each other to really make up a final plan, a master plan for this land. But we're going to continue to work on that. First thing we did is we also printed out one of those maps so we can just stare at it and think in our minds. But yeah, all of this work will continue in the research module. So if you want to follow it, make sure to click the link below, or just keep watching these videos and I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future. For now, that was it for this video. If you want to see the next video, make sure to support on Patreon so you can see it 1 week ahead of everyone else. Or not, then we'll just see you again here next week. Same channel, same time. Thanks for watching.